Have you ever looked back at a relationship and thought, how did I not see it? How was I so blind to the red flags? You gave her your loyalty, your time, and maybe even your soul, but all she gave you was chaos. If you've ever been burned by a woman who brought nothing but confusion, drama, and emotional turmoil, this video is for you. Because today we're diving into Stoic wisdom, specifically the timeless teachings of Marcus Aurelius, to uncover 7 signs of a stupid woman, and more importantly, how to protect your energy, your peace, and your purpose from her. Before we begin, do this for yourself. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you're tired of being manipulated, misunderstood, or misled in relationships, and make sure you watch till the end, because what you'll learn here could shift your entire love life and sharpen your emotional intelligence like never before. Why Stoicism and Marcus Aurelius. Before we get into the signs, let's ground ourselves. Marcus Aurelius wasn't a pickup artist. He wasn't a dating coach. He was an emperor of Rome and a philosopher of inner peace. His book, Meditations, was a private journal, a raw reminder to himself on how to stay grounded in a world full of noise, deceit, and temptation. Women, like men, can either be wise or foolish, and a stupid woman in this context isn't someone with low IQ, but someone dangerously disconnected from virtue, reason, and emotional discipline. Marcus wrote, "The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say, or think or do, only what you do." Or she thinks emotion is more important than reason. Have you ever loved someone who made you feel like you were walking through a minefield of her emotions every single day? You wanted to talk, but every word felt like a risk. You wanted peace, but her storms kept coming. And even when you stayed calm, somehow it was still your fault. If this hits home, this story might feel familiar. There was a man named Adil. Maybe his name isn't yours, but his experience might be. Adil wasn't perfect, but he was steady, logical. He believed that when problems arose in a relationship, you sat down like adults, talked it out, and found a way forward. But the woman he loved didn't work like that. If she felt angry, it meant he hurt her. If she felt sad, it meant he failed her. There was no space for logic, no room for explanation. Everything was judged by one thing only: how she felt in that moment. And so Adil began walking on eggshells. He started apologizing for things he didn't do. He gave up expressing how he felt, just to avoid triggering hers. He stopped being a partner and started being a therapist, a bodyguard, a punching bag. Sound familiar? You start doubting yourself. You wonder, maybe she's right. Maybe I am the problem. But deep down, something feels off. And that's not your guilt talking. That's your gut speaking the truth. Here's the wisdom Marcus Aurelius would have offered you. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. But the woman Adil loved rejected this completely. She didn't believe in owning her mind, she worshipped her emotions. And the tragedy? Her emotions weren't always honest. They were momentary waves, high, low, crashing, swirling, and he was just trying not to drown. Let's pause for a second. Think back to the first time you fell in love. The butterflies. The text that made you smile like a teenager again. The way she looked at you like you were the center of her universe. Now imagine that same woman looking at you with cold eyes and saying, "You make me feel unloved." And you don't know why. You didn't do anything. That's what happens when you love someone who trusts their feelings more than your reality. A stupid woman, not an intellect, but an emotional wisdom will make you question your truth simply because hers changes every hour. And if you're not careful, you start living in her emotional weather. Rain today, sun tomorrow, storms next week. But brother, that's not love. That's emotional servitude. A wise woman will still feel, but she will never make you the prisoner of those feelings. She'll invite you into her storms, yes, but she'll also walk with you through yours. And that's the difference between chaos and companionship. So let me ask you again, was it really love? Or was it just you holding up a collapsing roof that was never yours to fix? 2, she gossips more than she reflects. Have you ever been with a woman who, no matter how beautiful she looked on the outside, had something ugly to say about everyone? Think back, those late-night conversations. You thought they'd be about dreams, philosophy, plans, maybe even the two of you building something meaningful. But instead, she was always talking about someone else. Her friend's toxic boyfriend, her co-worker's fashion disaster, her cousin's secret relationship. Even your ex. And you sat there nodding, pretending to care, but deep down a little voice whispered, "If she talks like this about them, what does she say about me when I'm not around?" Let me tell you a story. Maybe it sounds like yours. There was a man named Imran, quiet, thoughtful, a Stoic reader. He admired Marcus Aurelius and tried to live with calm, purpose, and strength. He met her through a friend. At first, she seemed confident, charming. Her laughter was contagious. Her stories were entertaining. But over time, he noticed something. She never stopped talking about other people. Every outing was a breakdown of someone else's flaws. Every call was a judgment. Every dinner was a dissection of people who weren't even in the room. And Imran, he found himself changing. He started becoming cynical. He started looking at people through her lens, suspicious, critical, cold. Then one day, something simple happened. He overheard her talking to a friend, and there it was. His name, his secrets, his vulnerabilities twisted into a story for her amusement. That was the day Imran walked away. You see, Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "I don't waste what's left of your life in guessing what others are doing and thinking. But a stupid woman, again not in IQ, but in character, wastes her life living in other people's stories." Why? Because reflection requires strength. Gossip is easy. It distracts from the work of self-awareness. It's easier to criticize others than confront your own flaws. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever shared something deeply personal with a woman, and later wondered if she kept it sacred or spread it like wildfire? That doubt, that shame, comes from trusting someone who values entertainment over empathy. A woman who gossips more than she reflects is a woman who hasn't looked into the mirror long enough. She sees everyone else's mistakes clearly, but is blind to her own. And here's the Stoic truth. What injures the hive injures the bee. Marcus Aurelius. If she constantly poisons others with her words, don't think she'll spare you. It's only a matter of time. A wise woman reflects. A foolish woman projects. And love built on judgment will always collapse under the weight of insecurity. So ask yourself now, man to man, was she sharing her soul with you? Or just dragging everyone else's name through the mud to cover her own silence? Here, she seeks attention, not connection. Have you ever loved a woman who was always online but never truly present with you? She posted pictures of your dinners, your gifts, your trips. But when you looked into her eyes across the table, it was like no one was home. That's not love. That's a performance. And if this story sounds familiar, it's because too many good men have fallen for a woman who was addicted not to love, but to attention. Let me tell you about Bilal. He was a man who loved deeply but quietly. He didn't need to show off. He didn't need to broadcast. All he wanted was someone to build something real with. Then came her. She was stunning, confident. Her phone never left her hand. On their first date, she took a photo of the food before they even took a bite. Second date, she asked him to take pictures of her. 10 different angles. Third date, she said, "Don't tag me yet. Let me approve the caption first." At first, he laughed it off. But over time, he realized something chilling. She wasn't in a relationship with him, she was in a relationship with her followers. Every hug was posed. Every smile was filtered. Every moment was packaged to impress them, not to connect with him. And when Bilal tried to have real conversations, deep ones, she'd drift off. She'd check notifications mid-sentence. She didn't want depth. She wanted views. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." But her thoughts were not about values, love, truth. They were about likes, applause, being seen. Let's get honest here. Have you ever wondered if she loved you? Or if she loved the idea of being admired while standing next to you? There's a difference between a woman who sees you and one who sees an audience. You see, a wise woman seeks connection. She wants to understand your fears, your childhood, your dreams. She listens. She's present. She's not thinking about who's watching, she's thinking about you. But a foolish woman, a stupid woman in Stoic terms, is driven by the external. Her happiness lives in hearts, comments, and followers. She fears silence. She fears being unseen. So she fills the emptiness with validation from strangers, while ignoring the one man who truly cares. Brother, listen to me. If she needs the world to watch her to feel alive, you'll always be backstage. And no matter how much you give, It will never compete with the thrill of being wanted by the crowd. You deserve more than to be someone's prop. Love isn't found in the spotlight. It's found in stillness, in depth, in truth. And until she learns to seek connection over attention, she'll never know what real love actually feels like. 4. She plays the victim even when she's the villain. Let me ask you something difficult but necessary. Have you ever apologized for something you didn't even do? You sat there holding your head in your hands, thinking, maybe I am the problem. Maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe she's right. But deep down, a quiet truth whispered, she's twisting the story. And if you've been there, you know how heavy that silence feels. Let me tell you about a man named Samir. Samir was the kind of man who believed in protecting the ones he loved. He was a giver, a forgiver, a fixer, and then he met her. She was soft-spoken at first, vulnerable. She talked about all the people who had done her wrong. Her exes, her family, her friends. Samir believed her. He wanted to be the one who never hurt her. But as months passed, he started noticing a pattern. She would lie and then cry. She would break promises and then blame her past. She would hurt him and then say he made her do it. And somehow she was always the victim. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "It is not the actions of others that disturb us, but our own judgments about them." But when you're in love with someone who constantly plays the victim, your judgment becomes cloudy. You know something is off, but you're emotionally manipulated into silence. Samir started losing sleep. He began second-guessing his decisions, doubting his own memory, shrinking to avoid setting her off. He stopped defending himself and started surrendering just to keep the peace. That's when the damage begins. Let me speak to you directly. Have you ever looked in the mirror and not recognized the man staring back at you? Because you gave everything and somehow still became the villain in her story? That's not love. That's emotional warfare. A stupid woman, again not unintelligent but foolish in her spirit, has mastered one thing: deflection. She never takes responsibility. She doesn't apologize, she projects. She turns every wound she causes into a scar on your heart. And you're left apologizing for bleeding. But the Stoics knew better. Marcus Aurelius would have reminded you, if someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth. A wise woman seeks truth. She admits when she's wrong. She doesn't weaponize her pain. But a foolish woman uses victimhood, like a shield, and then stabs you while hiding behind it. You must understand this. A woman who always needs to be the victim will always make you the villain. And the longer you stay, the deeper you sink into guilt, confusion, and self-betrayal. So I'll ask you one last time. Was she truly hurting? Or was she just hiding the fact that she was the one doing the hurting all along? For she fears solitude, so she hides in chaos. Have you ever dated a woman who simply couldn't sit still with herself? She had to constantly be doing something. Out at a party, on her phone, calling a friend, posting a selfie, picking a fight. Because when it got quiet, she started to unravel. If you've ever experienced this, you already know how exhausting it is. Let me tell you about a man named Usman. He was calm, thoughtful, centered. He read the Stoics every morning. A man who valued peace over noise, substance over hype. Then he met her. At first, she seemed full of life, energetic, fun, spontaneous. But soon Usman began to notice the deeper truth. She could not be alone, not even for a day. If he wanted a quiet night in, she'd say, "You're boring." If he asked for space, she'd accuse him of losing interest. And whenever she wasn't the center of attention, she'd stir up a storm just to feel alive. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." But here's the catch. You have to be at peace with yourself to enjoy solitude. And this woman? She feared being alone. Not because she was lonely, but because when she was alone, she had to face herself. That silence? It echoed her insecurities. It reminded her of everything she didn't want to confront. So instead of sitting with it, she ran from it. Into chaos, drama, noise, conflict, anything but stillness. And Usman? He started drowning in it. Every time he reached for peace, she reached for panic. If things were going well, she'd create a problem, because stillness made her anxious. He began to realize she wasn't addicted to him, she was addicted to distraction. Let me ask you directly, Have you ever loved someone who couldn't be alone for even a day, but made you feel like you were never enough to fill the space? That's not a flaw in you. That's a reflection of her own inner chaos. A stupid woman, again not lacking intelligence, but wisdom, builds her life around avoiding herself. But a wise woman embraces solitude. She uses it to grow, to reflect, to become better. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If her thoughts are chaotic, fearful, and scattered, so will her love be. So if you're constantly being dragged into arguments, parties, meaningless conversations, or emotional roller coasters, ask yourself, is this love or is this a cover-up? Because a woman who fears silence will never bring peace. She will always chase stimulation, and you'll become just another way to fill the void she refuses to face. 6. She respects status, not character. Have you ever been loved for what you have, instead of who you are? Not for your values, your integrity, your soul, but for your car, your job title, your connections, or your bank balance? If so, you already know how empty that kind of love feels. Let me tell you the story of a man named Faizan. Faizan was a builder, not just of businesses, but of himself. He was disciplined, grounded, and every day, he tried to live by the teachings of Marcus Aurelius. He believed in things like virtue, honesty, and quiet strength. But the woman he fell in love with? She believed in labels. In the beginning, she admired him, or so it seemed. She would brag about his work, how important he was, how driven he looked. But as time passed, Faizan noticed something troubling. Whenever he talked about his struggles, she grew cold. Whenever he failed, even briefly, her energy changed. She didn't ask, "How are you holding up?" She asked, "When will things pick back up?" And when he hit a rough patch, business slowing, income tightening, she vanished like smoke. Why? Because her love wasn't for Faizan, it was for his status. The illusion of success. The highlight reel. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind." This woman's mind was filled with appearances, not values, not loyalty. She didn't care about the man Faizan was, only what he looked like in public. Let me turn this to you. Have you ever felt like you were being evaluated, not loved? Like you were on a stage performing for approval? And when the applause stopped, so did the affection? That's what it feels like to love a woman who values status over character. She doesn't ask who you are in the dark, only who notices you in the light. She doesn't care about how you treat others, only about who treats you like a celebrity. A stoic woman, one of wisdom, looks for your inner empire. She admires your self-control, your resilience, your virtue. But a foolish woman, a stupid woman, in the Stoic sense, chases power, not principle. And here's the tragedy. If she chooses you for your status, she'll leave you when your status slips. Because what she wanted was not love, but leverage. Marcus Aurelius would tell you this: receive without pride, let go without attachment. So if you feel like you have to perform to be worthy of her presence, step back, ask yourself, if I lost it all, my money, my title, my lifestyle, would she still be here? Because a woman who truly loves you for your character will stand by you even when the world doesn't. And a woman who only loves the empire was never loyal to the emperor. 7. She's never grateful, always entitled. Have you ever poured everything you had into a woman and still felt like it was never enough? You brought her flowers on a random Tuesday. You picked her up in the rain. You answered her midnight texts. You listened when she vented. You showed up again and again, and yet there was no thank you, only a sigh, a complaint, a demand for more. If you've ever been there, you know how it chips away at your soul. Let me tell you a story about a man named Hamza. Hamza was the kind of man every good woman prays for. He wasn't flashy. He didn't post love quotes or wear his heart on his sleeve. But when he loved, he showed it. Through action, through consistency, through presence. The woman he fell for seemed to appreciate it at first. But slowly her warmth turned into expectation. If he bought her a gift, she asked why it wasn't a more expensive one. If he cooked her dinner, she said she wasn't in the mood for that cuisine. If he gave her time, she asked why he didn't give her more of it. Nothing was enough, ever. Hamza once skipped a work trip just to be with her on her birthday. She didn't say thank you. She said, "Well, that's what you're supposed to do when you love someone." That was the moment he realized she didn't see his effort as a gift. She saw it as her right. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, Think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love. But a stupid woman, again, not in intelligence, but in maturity and mindset, doesn't wake up with gratitude. She wakes up with expectation. She believes the world owes her, that you owe her, that every gesture is just bare minimum. Let me ask you something raw and real. Have you ever felt invisible, even while doing everything in your power to make her feel seen? That's what it feels like to love someone entitled. You stop doing things because you want to. You start doing them because you have to avoid an argument, to dodge her coldness, to maintain her approval. But that's not love. That's emotional labor under pressure. Gratitude is the soil where real connection grows. But entitlement? That kills everything it touches. A wise woman will look at your smallest effort and honor it. She'll thank you not just for grand gestures, but for showing up when you didn't have to. Marcus Aurelius would remind you, receive without pride, let go without attachment. So if you're always giving and never receiving acknowledgement, it's not your job to keep proving your worth. It's her job to recognize it. And if she can't, then it's time to walk away, not because you weren't enough, but because she never had the wisdom to appreciate what she had. Ending, sharp and powerful. Too many men waste years trying to love a woman who doesn't even love herself. Don't fall for the performance. Don't excuse the chaos. Don't ignore the signs. A stupid woman will drain your spirit. A wise one will guard it. Choose wisely. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.